Tonight, can we get right? Tonight, can we get right? Whoa, hey, I need some of your love tonight. I need some.
Hello.
Of your love.
Hi.
Hi, Andrew. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Just setting myself up.
That's great.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Okay, sure. I think just now I tried to introduce you a little bit and about Equus, but I know that I wouldn't be able to introduce you so much because I think this is also the very first time that we got to talk. But
Mm.
Andrew, would you like to tell us about yourself and how you somehow co-found Equus and what are you doing?
Okay. Yeah, I'm the sort of co-founder of Equus. I have another partner, two partners, and we began about 25, 26 years ago, 1994. My maths isn't very good. 26, right? And we're a branding agency and design consultancy. We've got a very creative reputation. We've been working a long time. We have clients all over Southeast Asia, or have had them, mainly in Singapore, but we also have an office in Jakarta and KL as well. And we have a kind of footprint in Bangkok too. So we're kind of regional, and our customers are regional as well. Yeah. And we're very strategy led. We're very sort of EQ and intelligence led in what we do. Yeah.
Awesome. So I heard that it's already been more than 30 years for you in
26. Your maths. That's your maths that's the problem, not mine. 1994.
Oh yeah, 1994. No, because
Yeah.
like I checked the EQ's website and it was like more than 30 years. So
Oh well, that's me. That's me, not Equus. I was working
oh
in an international branding agency before Equus. Yeah, yeah. So I've been around a long time.
yeah. Okay, please don't extinct yet because like we need you on the industry.
Yes.
But
Not that old. Don't worry. I'm not going to keel over in a moment, unless I get COVID, of course.
no way.
Yeah.
Okay, so today's topic is very interesting, and we're gonna do two-part series of it, right? So this time is your session, and then the next one's gonna be, I think, Mr. Wirawan from Equus Jakarta
Yep.
talking
Yep.
about the external part. But today we're gonna talk about the internal part. So maybe I'll just go a little bit on the background study here. So I
Yep.
think within this time, right? Like no matter which industry that we work in, like it's almost certain that somehow the coronavirus pandemic and its economic like aftershock will affect somehow your business and also
Mm.
specifically our teams. And the bigger challenge is that if you're in a much more leadership position, and some are looking for the beacons of hope and also guidance, and as much as how to keep your own sanity, yet how to keep employees also engaged and thriving. So that's
Mm.
why I think today we're gonna talk more towards like the staff brand engagement, right, Andrew? And I think
Yeah.
I would just want to hear from your perspective and also point of view regarding about this.
Okay. Okay. Well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a 20-minute presentation, which will be a bit like a seminar or a talk, and then we'll open it up to questions, which Sanciani will then lead. Okay. So shall I
Yeah,
start? Okay.
yeah, sure.
All right. So we're going to do 3 talks. We've entitled the first two "Branding in Uncertain Times" Part 1 and Part 2. And I'm going to do Part 1, and my colleague Weira next time will be doing Part 2, which will have a more local focus. I'm being a little bit more global, shall we say, and internal. Okay, so let's face it, the COVID crisis is posing a huge set of challenges, both for businesses and consumers across the globe. The health challenges are bad enough, but the economic challenges to our businesses and communities could end up being far greater and longer lasting. And at times we can feel powerless, can't we, to do anything about it, except sit back and let it happen. But speaking to you guys out there, all of you probably business owners or brand custodians of various kinds like myself, we're fighters and survivors, right? Obviously, we're not going to just let our businesses fail without pushing back and taking charge of our fate. Right? Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
But with customer orders shrinking and income dropping through the floor while overheads continue at more or less the same level, the question is, what do we do? What can we do? It's difficult to know how to respond, isn't it? Do we cut spending or continue marketing our brand, or wait and see what competitors do? Of course, the temptation in times of economic crisis is to cut the marketing spend, particularly on brand building. At the same time, with the rapid explosion of social media, many companies are spending whatever remains of their marketing budgets on short-term fixes like social media marketing. This is understandable, but you can't attract new customers and expect them to remain loyal to your brand if all that you're doing is hyper-targeted social media messaging, highlighting things like discounts. Yeah? If the customer doesn't know your brand and all they see online is either discounting behavior on the one hand or new short-term deals that don't excite for very long, they won't stick with you when the crisis is over. It's only brands that are able to build a long-lasting emotional connection with their customers and adapt to their needs that will succeed in the long run, because they reward these brands with their loyalty. And why does this happen? Well, during uncertain times, we all become risk averse, don't we? And we tend to place our trust in known things, in trusted things, in those brands we can rely on and that truly understand and meet our needs. We look for products that represent genuine value, not because of a price promotion, but because they anticipate our needs and deliver on their promises. So empathy and trust are essential ingredients in brand building, especially during a crisis. But how do you build this kind of loyalty? Well, it comes about by two things. First of all, it comes about by knowing your brand promise and delivering on it day in, day out with complete consistency. And secondly, it comes about by steady, long-term brand building. So even in a time of crisis, you not only need to live out your brand consistently, but you also need to tell its story continually in a way that connects with your customers. This is what matters more than ever. As the old saying goes, when times are good, you should advertise. When times are bad, you must advertise.
Wow.
So marketplace studies have shown that brands that maintain their marketing spend during a crisis consistently increase sales and market share after the crisis, whereas brands that cut their spending have been proven time and again to continue losing market share long after the crisis is over, even when their marketing spend has been reinstated.
Yeah.
The trouble is, Andrew, I hear you say, it's all very well you saying that we need to continue spending on promoting our brand, but what if we don't have any income to do that in the first place? What if our sales have completely dried up and there's little or no money in the kitty?
Yeah.
Well, trust me, I hear you. I've not only been there several times before, but I'm in the same boat with you now. And I'm here to share with you one powerful secret that can literally transform your brand. That's probably the most effective thing you can do right now. And the amazing thing is that now, right in the middle of this crisis, is exactly the right time to do it. And best of all, the core of the process won't cost you any money, because you won't need to produce any collaterals or employ any external experts like me. You just need a lot of time and tenacity. And time and tenacity are probably the two things you do have even during this COVID crisis, right?
Yeah.
And that powerful secret is to focus on your staff and turn them into your brand's best ambassadors. Focus on your staff, I hear you say. What possible difference can that make? Well, in answer to that, let me tell you a little story. Richard Branson, you know him well, even though his airline is suffering right now due to the crisis, he is still one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. And I'm sure he will bounce back after the crisis simply because he has such a strong brand. And why is his brand so strong? If you ask him the question without any hesitation, he would tell you that it's down to his people. To him, Virgin's staff are his absolute priority, more important even than customers and shareholders. His staff are his priority. His formula for business success is as short as it is effective. He said, take care of your employees and they will take care of your business. It's as simple as that. When you put your employees first, he says, in the end, shareholders do well, customers do well, and your staff remain happy. It's what you call a virtuous circle.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's right. Nowadays, the big differentiating factor about branding isn't just about how your product performs. It's about the intangibles, the personality of your brand and how it's delivered. And a lot of that personality and delivery boils down to your people and how they not only serve your customers, but also interact with each other. Effective branding means activating a whole ecosystem, and it all begins with how your staff live out your brand. Do they understand and buy into your vision and share your values? Do they like your company even? Do they believe in your products? And do they enjoy serving your customers? Do they want your brand to succeed? And are they motivated enough to ensure that it does succeed? Or are they there just to collect a paycheck and go home and serve their own interests? Good questions, right? Because
Yes.
as far as customers are concerned, your staff usually are your brand. How they live it out in their daily interactions with your customers will make the difference between success and failure. So inspiring your staff to love the brand and become living incarnations of it is vitally important. Although achieving that, I'll admit, is far from easy. It's been said that a brand is only as strong as its worst experience. A brand is only as strong as its worst experience. Get that? And usually those worst experiences come down to customer and staff interactions that go off target and off script. And why does that happen? It's not all their fault, because usually the staff haven't been properly trained or educated about the company vision or values, or motivated to take pride in their jobs, or rewarded properly. And being human, they lose their tempers or get tired and stressed, or they've had a bad day, or they've got family issues. But above all, maybe it's because they're not excited enough about your brand to want to live it out properly in the first place. Get that? That's the holy grail of branding and business success. When all your staff are aligned with your brand and become its best and most enthusiastic ambassadors. But how do you achieve this? What if you're a small family business or a medium-sized enterprise and you don't have the resources or the budget of a large company like Virgin or AirAsia or BNI or Gojek? But I'm going to explain how to do it in 5 clear steps. It will only cost you what you already have: downtime and determination. Downtime and determination. These 5 steps I'm going to explain are as follows, and Sansiani will probably try and flash them up on the screen now. Is that right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, so I've done a little diagram which you probably can't see. It's not very helpful, is it? But anyway.
Editing with it.
Yeah, and Sansiani's in the way, but never mind. There are 5 main blobs on that diagram, and they correspond to 5 steps, which I'll explain to you now. Step number 1 is to know yourself. Step number 2 is to understand how customers perceive you. Step number 3 is to build the brand promise. Step number 4 is to realign, retrain, and reward. And then finally, step 5 is to provide a rallying point. So let me take a look at the first of these steps. Step number 1, to know yourself. What do I mean by that? Well, whatever else a brand is, it has to ring true. It needs to be authentic to who you are. So the first stage in this journey is a process of self-discovery in which you make a frank assessment of your brand, warts and all, problems and all, because sometimes what we think of ourselves, our strengths and weaknesses, is way out of step with reality. Organizations who themselves through rose-tinted spectacles risk making promises to customers they can never keep. This process will mean defining or agreeing what your vision and aspirations are, as well as your values and your culture. What are your key strengths or your attributes? What do you stand for and won't stand for? How would you describe your personality?
Yeah.
This first part of the process should come from the leadership. They need to create a unifying vision and clearly express their goals and values. But the leadership also need to walk the talk. If the behavior of the leadership isn't consistent with the company's vision and values, then the staff can't be expected to embody it either. Living out the brand needs to start with the leadership, with people like me and you. But it also needs to come from the ground up. Knowing yourself is also about understanding what your employees think of your brand and finding out what their aspirations are to see how these align with yours. Delivering the right brand experience depends increasingly on a company's ability to harness the aspirations and ideas of its employees. It's also about uncovering what their unique strengths and attributes are. If one of the key manifestations of your brand is your people, then you need to know what they bring to the party and how that makes your brand special. Their insights and their initiatives are integral to the brand proposition itself, and not only to engage them in being your best brand ambassadors. All of which prepares us for the next step, step number 2, knowing how customers perceive you. Understanding how your customers perceive you. Now, this step is about understanding not only how your customers experience your brand, but also what they think of you and why they choose you over your competitors. What are they looking for that you claim to supply? And how do you meet or fail to meet their needs? You will almost certainly be surprised at their reactions, as their view of your strengths and weaknesses and what they value most about you is probably completely different from yours. But the aim of this stage is to find out what resonates with your customers and what doesn't, and then build a marketplace proposition around what you can genuinely deliver and your customers genuinely want. A very effective and cost-free way to do this is to undertake what we call, or what is called, the customer journey. I'm sure you might have heard of it. In other words, you have to put yourself in the shoes of your customer and walk through all the details that form a journey through your business and see how these experiences look from your customer's point of view and how they align with your brand and meet your customers' needs and expectations. Typically, the customer journey will start with the experience of your website. That needs to be good, accompanied by maybe online reviews of your products or service, which they research on their own, on internet forums or social media. Then it might follow with a call to your company and includes how your staff respond to that inquiry on the phone. Then if they visit your premises, it'll embrace the way they are served and assisted by your staff, either in exercising hospitality, giving them a cup of coffee, or giving advice, or presenting or selling your products, or providing follow-on service. And when your product or service hits a snag, it will conclude with how your staff deal with glitches and complaints, either remotely or in person. How your staff handle complaints is probably the most crucial customer experience that either makes or breaks your brand. But every experience can do that. Taken together with all the other customer inputs and a true sense of what your brand is and what it stands for in the customer's mind, that's what will emerge, a sense of what your brand really is. At the same time, it will highlight all those areas where the experience of your brand falls short and what needs to be fixed, particularly in the way staff deliver your brand. Which brings me to step 3, which is about building the right brand promise. And you'll be glad to know this is the shortest step. So building the right brand promise. Once you've decided what your vision and values are and agreed on your core focus, and then you factor in your business's capabilities, as well as your staff strengths and your customers' preferences, then you need to develop a brand promise that truly aligns all of the above into one authentic brand promise. Because only when you've decided on your brand promise, in other words, what your staff can authentically deliver, can you then focus on how best to express that promise in the way your business is organized. At Equus, we call the brand promise your compelling truth, because it must be both compelling to your customers on the one hand, but equally it must also be something that is true, something that your staff can genuinely deliver day in, day out for every customer, whatever the weather, without reservation. Otherwise, it's no promise at all. Once you've agreed your brand promise, then you're ready for the next and most crucial step, step number 4, to realign, retrain, and reward. Realign, retrain, and reward. Now, the main objective of this stage is to reorganize your operation around your brand. You need to redesign and realign all your procedures so that they fulfill and deliver the brand promise and deliver the right experience. This means getting all of the different parts of your organization, management, sales, production, service, HR, accounts, administration, to step outside their silos and talk to each other about how to achieve that. Because every department and every staff member are crucial to delivering the right brand experience, not just management and sales. Get that?
Yes.
Once that is done, it involves formal training of your staff in the vision, the values, and the right experience of your brand, so that they know how to live it out. This means giving them training which answers the question, what can I do as a staff member to fulfill my company brand promise on a wet Monday morning? And it isn't easy. It involves changing priorities and hardwired behaviors, motivating staff not only to buy into the changes, but also to propose and make those changes themselves. Your staff must want to do it. They must want to behave in a way that supports your objectives, right? So how do you achieve that? First of all, the age of purely top-down management is completely finished. It's over. Need to know management cultures breed don't need to bother staff. Get that? People work much better if they know why your company exists, the business challenges you face, and what role they can play in achieving your purpose and meeting your challenges. So nowadays, encouraging bottom-up feedback, it's essential. Empowering your staff to use their own skills to solve problems and come up with new ideas, and then giving them the resources to do that is the best way to harness their initiative and secure their sense of ownership of your brand. Then they need to be rewarded in the right way. If performance appraisals and remuneration and promotion opportunities are not aligned to reinforce the right brand behaviors that you want, conflicting messages will be sent out about that will undermine your brand and disincentivize your staff. Anyway, once this major step is complete and everything's aligned, then we come to the final step, number 5, provide a rallying point. This is the part that may require some financial investment, although by the time you're ready to embark on this step, you might already be back with your skin in the game, with your staff raring to go, and good times may be back. So step number 5, provide a rallying point. Once your company has been reorganized and staff trained to deliver your brand promise, The final step may be to make some sort of visible sign to your customers and staff that something has changed. One of the best ways to achieve this is to refresh the visible expression of your brand, your logo, and your brand identity. Particularly if the internal reorganization of your business resulted in a new focus or new capabilities or new services. It's an important thing to do. And in this way, customers will be encouraged to look at your brand with fresh eyes. They'll realize that something's changed. But it isn't just a signal of change for customers. It's also a rallying point for staff. You need to get the whole company feeling that they're involved in the creation of something new. Because for staff at every level to embrace their role in fulfilling the brand promise, they need to feel excited that they have a new future, a future that they help to shape. In this way, you encourage the whole organization to live the brand. At the end of the day, however, it must be admitted that when it comes to customers, while the logo refresh might be an important thing to do, the main point is about how staff deliver the brand, not how pretty the logo looks, okay?
Yeah.
Because in branding, actions speak louder than words. In branding, actions speak louder than words. So there we have it. In order to turn your staff into your best brand ambassadors, you need to, step number 1, know yourself. Step number 2, understand how customers perceive you. Step number 3, build the right brand promise. Step number 4, realign, retrain, reward. And then step number 5, provide a rallying point. Finally, while the 5 steps we've outlined are effective, this whole exercise requires tenacity, determination. Once you've agreed what your brand stands for and decided how you're going to deliver it, you really need to stick at it, because changing ingrained habits and behaviors of staff and yourself is hard, right? And while you may start out thinking that this is a journey to a certain destination, eventually you realize this is an ongoing task that is never actually fully done. Aligning all the moving parts of your organization to deliver your brand promise is a constant challenge that requires constant effort. Thank you for listening.
Wow, amazing. I want to clap. It's really, really very beautifully well said. And also, I think, yeah, like I told you last time, I personally never come across this staff brand engagement process before. Like I've never seen it anywhere else. So I think a lot of us might as well try to practice this in terms of current time, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you so much, Andrew, to bring up the whole thing here. I think I'll just make it stay here because, like, maybe some of us gonna take some notes or wanna maybe ask around these steps. And we're waiting for all these people though that has been tuned in. If you guys have any question, you can somehow just drop in into the comment bar or just beside it there is a question card so that maybe Andrew can attend to your questions. And but while we are waiting right now, I think I have some questions for you too, Andrew.
Yeah.
And so okay, um, since you know, like the common terms, people tend to say that the customer is their king, but some companies also manage to, like you said, put their staffs first, like how the Virgin Airline did. And which one is the right standing for you? And how does taking care of your employees will enhance your somehow all your brand ecosystem?
Well, okay, I mentioned the Richard Branson example, and I mean, as I said, his airline is going through a crisis right now, as all airlines are. So it's not like he's done anything wrong, effectively. But the rest of his business is still strong, and he'll bounce back because he's got such a fantastic brand. But the reason he's got such a fantastic brand, I mean, in a sense, he hasn't invested in logos. He's invested in building up his people. See what I'm saying?
Wow.
And then the logo, I mean, what's his proposition? It's the rebel. It's, he's got this very fresh, subversive kind of role. You know, the name, even the name itself, Virgin. I mean, is quite shocking in a way, isn't it? There's a sort of shock value to it. And he's known to be a rebel. He upsets the apple cart, doesn't he? That's his brand, and he employs staff. He recruits people who have that kind of attitude, and then he trains them well in the Virgin brand so they live it out. And the result is he's one of the biggest businesses in the world, one of the most successful businesses in the world. I've also found that on my own experience. Now, I can't say that we're financially successful, otherwise I probably wouldn't be here talking to you. But I mean, I don't know. I come from a sort of Christian background where caring for people is a very important part of, you know, if you like, who I am. My father was a pastor and so on. And I've always taken a kind of pastoral approach to the staff, never thinking it was going to sort of build the brand. But actually it does. I mean, we're known for taking care of our staff and giving and soliciting their ideas about, it used to be their ideas about work. Now it's about everything. And guess what? They're all stepping up to the plate and they're chipping in their ideas, not only about new concepts for work, but also new concepts for how we make money and how we succeed and how we improve our systems. It's all coming from them. It's not coming from me and my colleague, Che Hua. Yeah. And Colin, who you'll be hearing from two sessions from now. Yeah. So it's kind of how we live our brand as well. We're not very top down. We're quite a flat structure. There's no doors. There's no office walls. It's, you know, we're all very, very open with each other. We're like a family, actually. And that is really our brand. And I'd say the same thing is true of Virgin, even though his organization is absolutely huge. He somehow, I'm sure almost every staff member will feel they know Richard, even if they haven't met him.
Yeah.
Yeah. He comes across as very genuine.
Yeah. That's very good. Like, I think most people
And he employs people who are like him. He deliberately employs leaders who are like him, who care for people. Yeah, sorry. Carry on.
Right. Yeah, I like to highlight that word, which is live up to your brand, because I think most of the brand owners are much more care to sell their products directly without trying to emphasize and also invest their most of the times to help their staff to become their ambassadors. So I think it's an interesting point how to ignite like a sense of collective brand ownership and belonging for your staff.
Is that the question? How do you give a sense of, well, and there are two ways. There's a sort of there's a financial way, and there's an what shall I say, an initiative way. You give staff the feeling that they can take that. You encourage them to take the initiative. So I'm a firm believer in, you know, no top-down management unless something's going badly wrong. I've never been a command-driven kind of person. I don't like being bossed around, and I don't like bossing people around. If I have to do that, I realize that somehow I either employed the wrong person or I failed. You know, when you start bossing people around, something's gone wrong somewhere. So I'm a firm believer in consensus. Consensus among the staff and also my partner colleagues. You know, we do everything by consensus. And you invite their feedback. You give them the permission to come up with their own ideas. And when they do that, not only about work, but also about how Equus is shaped, you know, what we do, they get a sense that they are part of the brand, you know. They get that sense of ownership. Now, also, if we're successful, then you try and share the success with them, with bonuses and so on. It's a bit difficult to be successful in the design industry, I have to admit, financially speaking. But whenever we do, we share that success with our staff. And of course, you promote them. I mean, if you know, I've always said to myself in my own career, if I act like a leader, I will be made a leader. If you act like a leader, you will be made a leader. So you must always think above your pay grade. I often say this in feedback to staff. Well, occasionally I say that in feedback to staff. You don't think about how little you're paid. Think about what you can do to contribute to this company, because if you make that kind of difference, you will automatically be paid more. And in my career, I've never ever asked for a pay rise, not even once. Not once. I've never asked promotion. I never asked for a pay rise. And guess what? I was always given promotion and pay rises. Why? Because I always took responsibility. I always tried to act like a leader. And as a result, bosses thought, oh, Andrew, you know, he's good. I'll put him in charge of this and I'll pay him more money. Never asked for it. And that's how you get on. You think like a leader, even if you're not treated like one, even if you're mistreated. And I've had terrible bosses. My Chinese colleague, Chewa, female colleague, she's got horror stories as well about our former bosses, because we used to work somewhere else. And we've always had terrible bosses. But even in situations like that, you act like you're also a boss. And guess what? They reward you. Or if then you get in their way, you get fired. You either get rewarded or you get fired. And I've had both. I've been rewarded and I've been fired. Yeah.
Wow, that's really good. Like taking up roles.
Sometimes being fired is a sign that you're doing the right thing.
Really? Yeah. I never got fired.
If you're acting like a boss, if you're taking responsibility and you're making decisions like a boss in a way, and then you get fired for it, well, you're probably getting fired for the wrong reason. I mean, you know, you should be proud of yourself.
That's really great. I think authority is not based on position, right? But it's based on how you somehow steward the things that you've been entrusted. And it's really cool. I mean, if somehow people that is, let's say, below our leadership can start to think that way. And so come
No
back
matter
to
how
like
low you are in the
the
organization,
brand
think like a
ambassador
leader.
stuff. How does turning
Yeah.
your employees, okay, this is not really common though. Like, I mean, I don't really see people here, I mean, especially in Indonesia, try to make their employees to become their brand ambassadors. And how does it build your brand, Andrew?
Okay, well, some companies are very, very deliberate about this, but what they do is they elect certain individuals to become brand ambassadors. You know, sales staff, for example, or maybe in HR there will be somebody who's the brand guardian, and they'll elect brand ambassadors. That's not the way to do it. The point is to turn all of your staff into brand ambassadors. What I mean by that is make them all excited about living out the brand, because then it's not like you put a badge on them saying you are now a brand ambassador. You know, oh, okay. You know, do I get more money for this? No, you don't give them the badge. You just excite them about your brand so that they want to live it out on a daily basis. So that when they go to work and they walk into the lift, into the elevator one morning, and the person next to them says, "So what do you do and who do you work for?" They can give your pitch perfectly because they believe in it and know it. They can give the sort of 15-second slam dunk description of what you do because they believe in it. Do you know what I'm saying? And they talk, and when they talk among their colleagues, they're not looking for an excuse to go and have a cigarette or go to the toilet or go on to Instagram with their friends in the toilet or whatever it is, or gossiping with somebody at the cooler. What they're doing is they want to do their job and they discuss with their colleagues how to do it better. So in a sense, they're ambassadors to each other. Can you help me with this problem? How have you faced this yourself? Can you give me a hand here? And my staff are very, very cooperative with each other. So in a sense, they're reinforcing the brand with each other all the time. They're being brand ambassadors to each other because they show their enthusiasm. That's all I mean. It's informal. It's unofficial. There's no badge.
Wow. Yeah, I do see that happening though. Like, if I were to mention one of the, I think, local company here, if you know about Traveloka, I think they're kind of somehow struggling as well in terms of keeping up with their staff and employees. And
hospitality, right? They got lots of hospitality interests.
Travel app, yeah. So
travel, yeah.
Yeah, and the one thing though, but
they're our client actually. Sorry.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
Weira might be saying about that next week.
Before actually this thing happened, like the pandemic happens, some of my friends were working there, right? And they always updated stuff like, this is how I think somehow Traveloka infuses the way how their employee can live up to their brand. One of the things that they do, especially because all the employees have like a flexible hours,
Mm-hmm.
and they do have like a lot of amount of time to spend for holiday because
All
there's
right.
travel. Yeah, so they don't limit people to travel here, now, and there, but you just need to stand by whenever they need to like somehow contact you with and about your work and stuff. So
Yeah.
whatever the employee is going to take a travel on like holiday, they have like a certain Traveloka membership as a staff. So they have
Mm.
like a points reduction if they need to use the app to go somewhere, to buy a ticket, to book a hotel and everything. So they're somehow like a privilege there. And like, I mean, they will definitely just go to the app again, to their company again, whenever they want to make, bookings and
Yeah.
travel. So
Yeah.
I
No,
think
that's
that's,
that's very smart. That's very smart.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really like making their stuff just go in their circle of travel
Yeah,
apps
exactly. They
without,
stay inside the brand. They stay inside the brand. That's very clever.
yeah,
Actually, Richard
yeah.
Branson does something similar. He gives his staff as much holiday as they want. And guess
Mm,
what? Their productivity is higher, not lower. Yeah.
wow,
Because they take
wow.
charge of their own time. They're not command driven. They decide what they need to do for their job and they do it. And then they take
Mm,
holiday whenever they want. So it's kind of similar.
yeah. Andrew, I think maybe 10 more minutes is gonna end. I don't know. But usually like 2 minutes, last 2 minutes they're gonna have like a pop-up countdown. So maybe one last question before we end it. Like I love the idea on the fifth point here, the step five, which is provide a rallying point, right?
Yeah.
And I just want to ask though, like if you refresh your brand, right? So how to provide this rallying point internally, like so that they have like a fresh lens of your brand.
Mm. Well, I mean, I'm sure you've all heard of the internal brand as opposed to the external brand.
Mm,
And building the internal brand isn't necessarily about coming up with a new logo. It's about going through the process that I've described, the five-step process. However, it has to be said that if you've been through the process I've described, you'll probably reshape what you're doing. You will probably discover new capabilities and shut down other capabilities which aren't useful. They aren't what the customer wants, or you can't deliver them effectively. So there's normally some sort of realignment that goes on which changes you quite radically or substantially. That being the
mm,
case, it often makes sense to come up with some sort of tweak to your logo, or refresh or change, which signals that you've changed, which signals this new alignment, this new focus, shall we say. And that's
mm,
good for staff too, because it kind of gives them a flag. I mean, we all love symbols, and we all invest a lot of meaning in symbols and flags. I mean, I'm British. I'm very proud to be British. I love our flag, and I invest so much of our history in that flag. Right? You invest
yeah.
an awful lot in symbols. So if you've changed a lot and yet you haven't changed your logo, there's a disconnect you're setting up, which
Mm,
which can sort of it won't necessarily make your staff leave or anything, but they'll go, oh gosh, we need to look a bit different here, and then they get
mm,
behind that new look, you know. However, you might go through that process and discover that your brand is fine as it is, your logo is fine as it is, and which is okay. But what you're doing is you're giving yourself, that process gives you a plumb line with which to judge everything you're doing in branding terms. And if it doesn't
mm,
align, you really should fix it. And if that includes the logo, you should fix it. And then for
mm,
customers, if you have substantially changed what you're doing, or how you talk about yourself, or how you deliver your product or service, then again, maybe you should think about tweaking your brand to reflect that change. But as I
mm,
said at the end, I'm speaking as a brand designer myself, so I'm undercutting myself, if you like. At the end of the day, customers are much more convinced by changes in behavior, by actions rather than visual, lipstick. But the lipstick is
mm.
important, as any girl would tell you, and any guy. The lipstick is important.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Did I
really
answer
good.
your question?
Yeah, yeah, perfect. Sounds
Okay.
perfect. So yeah. What else? I think I've got it all. Since maybe we can use some time if you want to summarize this, Andrew. Like maybe you have like one more tips for us to be like effectively and how to engage with stuff.
Oh gosh, haven't I given you enough? I've been
I think
talking.
you have, but maybe we
Well,
can
I
summarize it.
summarized it by just recapping what the steps were. But let's put it this way. You can choose to ignore what I'm saying, but at the end of the day, it's almost like it's not rocket science, is it? It really is obvious that unless your staff live out your brand, you're onto a no-winner. You're onto a kind of downward slope. And so many companies operate at that level. I mean, I don't even know how they survive. But that's the point. They merely survive, they don't thrive. And I reckon if you turn your staff round so they're really excited about your brand and they naturally become your ambassadors, that will make an absolutely huge difference to the way people perceive you and ultimately your bottom line. It's bound to be reflected in the bottom line because then customers will love your brand because your people treat them so well and they do such a great job. And when things screw up, they know how to be nice and patient and very often. I mean, this is my last tip. It's when you screw up that you show how good your brand is. So it's not a question of avoiding screwing up because we all make mistakes. All companies make mistakes, bound to happen, right? There are too many moving parts to manage without a few of them falling on the floor occasionally. Now the question is, a good brand is a company that knows what to do when it screws up. It apologizes, it's patient, it's nice, it fixes things quickly without fussing, without complaining, without making excuses, And it's companies that do that really, really strengthen their brand. It's when you screw up that people really find out how good your brand is. And that comes down to your people.
Wow. And then, like you said, the tenacity, right? To
Yeah,
be constant.
yeah. It's hard work.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. It's very hard, this. But if you do it, you're onto a winner. And you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
You don't
Like
need
you
people
said.
like me. You don't need me. You can do it yourself. Actually, it would
Awesome.
help if you employed me. It would help. But actually, if you follow my steps, you can do it yourself.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you so much, Andrew. And I think some of us here may be very shy to ask you a question, but it's okay. I think we covered a lot of things today, and yeah, I think it's good. It's already very brief, and I think we just gonna end it here if there's
Okay.
nothing.
Right.
Awesome. It's been a great time with you, and I'm looking forward for the other two series with Equus, and I believe will help
Good.
us a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Weira will be coming along to give you lots of local tips. If you like, short-term strategies in the local Jakarta market. So he's got some interesting things to share with you. Tune in then.
Yes, please tune in.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Andrew, again for your time. I hope you have a nice day, and good luck for your
Thank you,
Equus.
and same to you. God bless everybody. Keep you safe.
Yeah.
Stay well.
Miss
Bye-bye.
you, baby, can we get right? Tonight, can we get right? Tonight, can we get right?